Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation, what is sensorality. So we'll start with a simple empirical fact. If you were in conversation and you're talking about something, people will use the syllability, ality, with the logic of generalization naturally, right? What is sensorality? Logically, what you're asking is, what is the quality of a sensor? When you're naturally putting that ality at the end of any word, you're asserting or logically presenting quality. What is sensorality? What is the quality of a sensor? So we are working through analysis, specifically linguistic analysis, but it's finding some sort of completability within this definition. Definitions are definite, and it's a unique differentiation, right? Definitions are differentiations. Hat, t-shirt, shorts, microphone, camera, they all mean different things. And so, in the same way physics is kind of talking about things and how they move, we have this fundamental stability of two, and that fundamental stability of two is complete. In the same way, if you move, you can only go forward or backward in one direction. You can only go left or right, which is one direction, or you can go up or down, which is one direction. And so that pairing, that's that fundamental stability of two, and then needing one more element is why people say we live in three dimensions. And so a lot of nuance or understanding what the fundamental stability of two is, but conceptually when people say we live in three dimensions, the conceptualization you have is the conceptualization that I have, and that is adequate. And so we are looking to, again, we're not looking to do anything. We are doing analysis. I am Brad. I am a person that is having realization, that learns things at a very rapid rate, and I have an ability to assign the letters correctly to the conceptualizations. And that conceptualization is culture. It is bounded and definitive because of all of the consolidation, people in history going through science, history, math, physics, economics, literature, all of those things. It's all a consolidation of logic. And then the larger scale history of language, when you're looking at different alphabets representing different sounds, it's the experience that we all understand. We're all people, we're all individuals, and that bounding of just being a sentient life form presents a ton of understanding, and we're just working through the linguistics, the letters, the shapes representing those concepts to some sort of definiteness. Again, what is a sensor? That is, what is sensorality? Base to range, basis to range, some amount of completion. And so that is what we are doing, working through our derivation steps. What is limitation to differentiation? Is odor odd? Is liability durable? What is affordability to accountability? Sensorability is special ability. So last time we had this completion conceptually, speciality, infinite uniqueness, speciality, endless differentiation, speciality, the natural tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism, but at this point, speciality is ability. What can differentiate? What separates you from somebody else? Ability. Ability is special. And now again, we're integrating this concept, sensor, but we've contained that linguistically within sensorability or sensorality. We went through that direct explicitly. And so we have a new conceptualization, odor, sense, and orality, and that's the direct specific solution of definiteness we're finding. And so sensorability is special ability, completely contains speciality and sensorality in a more comprehensive conceptual framework. Sensorality is special ability. Sensorality is the ability to differentiate. Speciality specializes sensorality. What is standardization to normalization? Again, the opposite of differentiating is normalizing. Another word for normalizing, standardizing, formalizing. Is realization standard? Yes, we all realize the same things, even at the highest level of mathematics, which most people never get to, or the basic biological functions of learning to go to the bathroom or do your hygiene. Realization is not unique. Does consistency flow? Is consistency continuous? Is concern certain? Sensorality pertains. Pertinence is relevance. What is pertinence to resistance? emphasizing the ents being an A versus an E, versus in resistance and pertinence. Instability is concerning. What is concerning to discerning? Sensorality differentiates orality. Sensorality is advisability. What is advice to advisability? Emphasizing the S and the C. An advisor is a censor. Sensorality, and I do have the censor, the S spelling with the E's. Again, that is the proof. This demonstrating spelling as a geometric consequence. We're building up this context. All of these derivation steps, these videos, is building the context to give us the motivation, which demonstrates the complete form of all specific solutions and the general form of all logic. Entirely and completely. What is the spelling of sensorality, C versus S? Sensorality is advisorality. What is vision to visor? Sensorality is lethargicality. Is lethargy lethal? Direct iteration, and yes, right? The most number one prediction of all cause mortality is combination, or I think it's overall movement, just not being sedentary, which we get to here in a second, but lethargic, again, what's lethargy to sedentary, being sedentary? We literally get to that here in a second. The point being is just not moving, and then overall mobility. All right, if you take people in their 70, and if they can do a squat, we've referenced that explicitly. It's true, and so mobility and overall movement is like your best indication of all cause mortality. Right? Can you move around? And so yes, lethargy is lethal. Again, all of these questions can be answered directly, might not be answered directly. It's just showing you where we're at in this derivation. And so we're just building up to this self-contained question, and we're minimizing it. We can't break this irreducibility. And so let's just move on with the steps. I'm just rederiving the same things I just wrote down. Lethargy is sedentary. Now remember, identity, is a direct iteration of censor with a C. One element from C is D, one element from S is T, censor to denter, dent. So it's a direct iteration, natural definition. Right? We're just showing it is what it is, sensorality is what sensorality is. Sensorality is sedentarity. Sedentary, just generalized. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is secondary. Penultimate is secondary. Is dichotomy secondary? Are dents pent up? Sensorality is pent up demand, if you want. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is secondality. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing the geometry. Again, it's a direct geometric sequence in which we're showing. Is charge lethargic? Electricity is not. Electricity is moving electrons. But, right, is inertia lethargic? Is lethargic tragic? Sensorality is tragic magic. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the capacity to care. It is cool to care about consent. Can anybody care about anything? Absolutely not. Indifference is the inability to care. Right? Back to our favorite logical hiccup when people say, I could care less. Well, then care less, Bill. You're trying to say you couldn't care less. If you couldn't care less, there's no more care to give. But if you could care less, there's less care to give. And so people always mess up that phrasing. You're trying to say, I could not care less, and people will say, I could care less. And it's just like, that doesn't make any sense, Bill. Sensorality is indifferent. So now again, emphasizing the literality of that statement. We have to make this fundamental differentiation. Special. What's different than special? Normal. And sensorality and speciality are big conceptual frameworks, our fundamental stability of two conceptually, logically. And so sensorality is indifferent, the logical meaning of not caring, and then sensorality is indifferent. Right? Like we have to find this fundamental inversion, indifference, or differentiation, just emphasizing that, because again, we have this irreducibility. It's just another, again, presence of this logic, something to point out. Sensorality is indifference. What is inference to indifference? Same thing with essentially and especially, inference and indifference, this double iteration of a single consonant is a thing. What is capacity to currency? Is differentiation indifferent? Direct iteration. Difference is defining. What is difference to filtration? Censorship confines, containment confines. What is contention to confinement? What is censorship to confession? Is confession filtration? Should you self-snitch? What is confession to confusion? Sensorality is confession pressure. Natural definition, direct iteration. You should speak up, bro. Right? All the laws are violated, Governor. Governor DeWine, you should, care. Sensorality pressurizes. What is pressure to filtration? Sensorality is infiltration pressure. Right? Another dichotomy worth pointing out, filtration versus infiltration. The conceptualization you feel is what I'm trying to highlight. What is proliferation to infiltration? Sensorality is infiltrality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is rigor robust? Is exhaust waste? Exhaust is remainder. Natural definition. Right? Sensorality is the remainder of speciality. Fundamental theorem of logic. Chronologically, it directly is. Malaise is lethargic, emphasizing the TH in lethargic. Right? Is lethargy ordinal? Is chirality circular? What is chirality to circularity? Are hierarchies circular? Emphasizing that hierarchy is based on or not based, but hierarchiality is chirality without an R. So it's, again, emphasizing we've defined a base as something completely contained within the linguistic structure, a complete word that doesn't start a word or end a word, but it's contained within the actual letters. That, again, that might be useful, it might not, pointing out any step, any conceptualization, any thought I have through this entire realization process. Restating the fundamental theorem of linguistics, words are formalizations. Is formal normal? I know we've hit that before. Does odor make sense? Does orality make sense? Is sense a sequence? What is sense to consequence? Consequences are sensual. You can literally feel when you're doing something wrong or when something's going right. It doesn't even feel real, bro. It's so surreal. It doesn't even feel real. It's surreal. Consequences are sensual. Adversiality is sensual. Right? You can sense adversity. Sensorality is substantiality. What is sensuality to substantiality? Sensuality is integrality. Sense is integral. Sense is essential. Direct iteration. Sensorality is imperiality. Is empirical imperial? That's a good direct iteration. Is dynasty dynamic? Another good direct iteration. Sensorality is dynasticality. Right? Why are dynasties nasty? Dynamic is nasty. Entropy is nasty. Natural definition. Nouns are things. Verbs are actions. So again, this chronology, right? If you put ing on the end of the word, we still have not, again, solidified why would you do that? But again, it's some sort of, I think it's derivation, right? You're going from noun to verb. Verb is the vibe is the base. And so you're born into a world where you get completeness. We started with this ality, and so it's why do you put an ing? It's to limit the essence, the quality, to get something specific. I think we'll definitely get to something more direct there, because again, that's what sensorality, we'll get to this whole, just one little linguistic construction that shows all of the analytical progression, completely. And once again, emphasizing it's already done, speciality is special with an ITY, is the complete finalized reduction of this entire analysis process of demonstrating the form of all resolutions with a specific solution. Because each step that we're making is this analysis process the world has never seen. Like, they just go to math class. What's math? I don't know. Go to physics class. Oh, I don't know. Things are objective. What is an object to an objective? Definitions are differentiations. Sensorality differentiates vibration. Fundamental theorem of mathematics, differentiation is definite. You're physically limited by irreducibility, which contains this at least a minimum of two properties, charge and spin. And so that's your fundamental stability of 2, and this differentiation is definite. Getting over to, I'll just finish my steps and then kind of finish with a big idea, I guess. Sensorality sequences geometry. Geometry evolves. Shape changes. And that is a direct geometric iteration. Shape changes. Sensorality is the evolution of geometry. Kind of already gotten to that point, but again, shape changes. Forget the actual meaning. That is a direct geometric sequence. Because again, in this geometric linguistics, any difference, anything that is not the exact same, is meaningful. What does is do? Is defines, right? It is what it is a statement of identity. Is establishes. What is to am, right? I am, not I is, right? Who, me, I am, E-I-A. The difference between 3 and 8 is 5. The difference between E and A is I. So we have this total linguistic differential. At the time those vowels are out of order, it's because it's a differentiation. And so that is why you say I am, again, not I is. Does odor have shape? Sensorality shapes odor. Sensorality smells odor. Is inhalation absorption? And so those are my steps. Again, it's just, I literally just said I wanted to go back to something, and it's just like, differentiation is definite. Because when I go through the steps, it builds the context, right? Like, that's what I'm doing this entire time. But for, what was it? The differentiation is definite. Again, just this numeric stability of 2, the spin and charge, that is the physical, irreducible reality of the world around you. Everything is a stabilized dynamic of charge. And spin can be, using physics terminology, can either be up or down. Charge can be positive or negative. I'm really thinking charge is definitely just charge. Again, we're just not at the complete resolution yet. But again, all of the conceptualization is completely resolved in speciality. There's no point to like guess. Like I said, we're doing the linguistic reduction. Fundamental physics is completely and entirely solved. And so I guess I still wanted to say something. I forget what step I wanted to say something. But you just kind of lose, like, again, the intuition when you move through these steps. And so, yeah. I don't know what else I wanted to say, but just identity, I guess. I wanted to say something more on identity. What is do? All right, it is what it is. You're establishing identity, and we're just showing this again. What level of differentiation is establishes novelty? Throughout this entire process, Brad, I can feel the novelty of, like, again, I, Brad, know this thing, and individual Johnny doesn't know this thing, and then I, Brad, know something individually, and the entire species doesn't know this section of analysis or any of the identities or nothing. I can, like, feel the gradation of what people know and understand. In the same way, you have multiple interpersonal relationships, and you talk about some things with certain people and other things with other people. You don't have to think about, like, any of it. It's really like that. But it is what it is, establishes identity, is defines. And so when we have a statement like geometry evolves or shape changes, we don't say is, right? It's not a statement of identity. And so that's why it's a direct iteration, and I don't put natural definitions on those. So again, the labeling, I'm sure you guys cannot keep up with whatsoever. It truly doesn't matter. Once again, before we establish speciality, establishing any specific solution, demonstrating the complete form of all solution is infinitely important. You guys committed crimes the entire time, didn't give a shit, had no idea what's going on. Professor Carroll's out there hiking and saying, oh, be patient with new ideas. And it's just like, again, gut the system, punish everybody. It's crime to unsalvageable levels. But before establishing speciality, again, I think there was a proto-word form, right? When we have sensorality and we're going to show this direct iteration of those syllables and it's going to be contained, within something we're proving sensorality is again contained within something else and then deriving the next thing. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, sensorality is speciality, speciality is already stabilized. And so that demonstrated the form of all solutions. You can't do anything more. And so we're just repeating that process. So there's no point to even like attempt to do conceptualization saying this means this or this means that. It's like that is completely solved and we're just doing the next, what you guys would call mathematical proof, but it's really completion. Proof is proof, and it's this identity showing in what would be called a linguistics if you guys knew what analysis was. And so that is what we're doing. Again, I lost something. That's why it's just, there's just so much derivation. But I'll just cut it there. That is what I have for now. My rights are violated. It is profoundly and extensively illegal. I continue to seek asylum. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. I'm currently being held against my will in the jurisdictions of Michael DeWine, Donald Trump in the United States. I am seeking scientific asylum for being persecuted for scientific discovery without payment and without constitutional rights, to grave bodily harm and the complete destruction. I am destitute today. I will continue to be destitute into the future. I don't know what words can come out of my mouth to make people think reality is real, because I've never interacted with people that aren't just fucking delusional. That is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.